Lawrenceville, New Jersey on October 26th of 2022. Peter was truly an exceptional person whose kindness and creativity and selflessness touched the lives of countless people over the years. Peter was an excellent pilot, a talented pianist, and a dedicated professional, but what many will remember him for most is his remarkable ability to bring people together. Whether it was introducing someone to their life partner or building a company, Peter had a unique gift for spotting opportunities and making connections that could change people's lives. By example, if it were not for Peter Antonuccio, I would not have found the love of my life, Jennifer Lyons. And if it was not for Peter Antonuccio and Albert Stark introducing my sister Cindy to Steve Golden, they would not be together right now. And that they both had a part in that.
So thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Also, Peter was responsible for me having a job at Stark & Stark.
So thank you.
Where I've worked since 1987. My first interview did not go well. As a young associate, I was asked if I liked to write, and I said, well, not really, but I could do it, which was the wrong answer. But Peter convinced Albert Stark to give the kid a second shot, and I did have a second interview, and by that time I knew what the right answer was to that question. And fortunately, Pete said enough good things about me that Albert said, okay, let's give him a shot. And I've been there since 1987. By the way, Peter also videotaped me taking the oath, which we have, and it's on YouTube and some other place. But Judge Gato swore me in, and Albert and Ellen and Cindy and my mother were there, and Peter was there, and Peter told me, be a good boy and hug my mom, which I did. Peter was extremely proud of his son Mark and his grandson Rowan, and he would frequently tell me about Mark's accomplishments building a company in Moab, Utah, of all places, or the great work his grandson did, Rowan, while at school. And you might not know this, Rowan, but Pete always thought that you would make an excellent pilot. So I don't know if that's...
I hadn't heard that one.
If you have any
Oh,
plans
that
on
makes
doing
sense,
that,
though.
but Peter was a superb pilot. I mean, knew how to fly and was a by-the-book person, which you have to be if you are going to stay alive flying an airplane. And he flew often with my father, who was a private pilot, and they would fly from Mercer Airport, and they would fly from Twin Pines Airport. I don't know if the local people remember Twin Pines. It's now soccer fields. Yes. Yeah. Pete was a solid, trustworthy, and loyal friend to Albert Stark, to Bob Levitt, to Bill and Betty Temple, and to their daughter Ashley. He loved going down to Florida to spend time with Bill and Betty, and always had a story to tell upon his return. Before my parents passed away, Peter was an excellent friend to Mary and Marty Bratman, and he would often go flying with my dad on Sunday mornings. I also fondly remember many dinners with Peter, with Albert, and with Bob Levitt, where we would go out and share stories and talk about life. Throughout his life, Peter dedicated his talents and expertise to helping others. He established certified video and certified funding, all of which have made a significant impact in the lives of countless people across New Jersey and beyond. With the help of Paula Franklin, who is here, his trusted and talented friend and associate, he built one of the earliest medical legal illustration companies called Certified Medical, which continues to this day to produce first-rate, high-quality medical legal illustrations for attorneys. If there's any other attorneys here, call Paula.
Talk to Paula.
And she will take your order. Peter's commitment to justice was unwavering, and his dedication to his work was an inspiration to all who knew him. We will miss Peter Antonuccio incredibly, but we will take comfort in knowing that his legacy will live on through the countless people whose lives he's touched and transformed. He will be forever remembered as a truly exceptional person whose hard work, creativity, and kindness touched many. Rest in peace, Peter. Our hearts are with you and your family. Thank you. And now whoever else would like to come up, please feel free. If you have, even if you want to just say a word or two, and you don't even have to come up. You could sit or whatever you feel comfortable
I
with.
can get up.
Yep.
That's a sink off the couch.
It is first.
I'm Bonnie Antonuccio Corrado, and I feel like I should go first after your love. Pete, because I knew Pete at a very young age. I met Pete when I was 18 years old, and he had just come home from the service, and I actually knew his brother Bob from the neighborhood. And although we hadn't dated, Bob and he introduced me to his brother. And what I liked first, I think, about Pete was his just kind of takeover ability. He could do anything that he put his mind to, and he just had such wonderful aspirations. And we really had a lot of fun together. We were together for 10 years, married for 5. And he just, I must tell you, I bought him his first flying lessons as a gift. I have a lot of pilots in my family, and I used to go to the airport with him, and I also was in the plane when he flew with his instructor to get his instrument rating. I was in that plane.
Wow.
So that's why I felt I should speak first, because I'm like way back. And my wonderful son Mark and our wonderful grandson Rowan and our wonderful family really has all come from that relationship. And I know Pete would be very proud of them because they are great. But Pete helped. I was in Trenton State. I had finished my freshman year, and Pete wanted to go into business. He wasn't quite sure what he wanted to do, but something to do with business. So I said, well, while you're deciding, maybe you should think about going to school and take some business classes. So he went to Ryder, and I went to Trenton State. I had no car, so he would drive me to Trenton State and drop me off, and then go to Ryder, and then come back and pick me up. And our parents lived very near each other, so we were actually kind of neighbors. We bought the liquor store together. He worked in the House of Hi-Fi. And we bought the liquor store on South Broad Street together, and it was during that time I was teaching, and that's when Mark was born. And he was just very interested in everyone, interested in people, knew how to fix everything, knew how to do everything. He was just a great guy, he really was. Our relationship kind of fell apart, but we both went on to have happy lives, and I'm glad that he did too. I just want to share one kind of tells, I always think this is, and I've told Mark this story, this is Pete in an absolute nutshell. We went to Jamaica on our honeymoon. It was 1966, and I was not pregnant. And it was and I'm mentioning that for a reason. It was very hot and very, very humid, and we stayed in a wonderful place in Ocho Rios, and it was far from the airport. So everybody was going to the airport in these kind of broken down old vans, and Pete called up and said, my wife is pregnant. She's not feeling at all well. That's what I said. This is an important part of the story. She's not feeling at all well. What can you possibly do to help us? And about a half an hour later comes this big Jamaican guy. I remember it like it was last week, named Barrington Seidel. With this great big air-conditioned black Cadillac limousine. And there went Pete and I to the airport. So that's
lovely.
Pete in a nutshell. Pete could get the job done. And of course Mark and Rowan and Amanda and Sierra and our wonderful family. So we've got a lot to be thankful for of having Pete in our lives, even though it was the earlier Pete that I knew. So I thought that I just would like to let you know an early story of Pete.
That's very
Yes.
When he worked at House of Hi-Fi, he actually put a stereo into my Chrysler Baron, which was my first car.
Oh, wow.
It sounded great.
Yes, wow.
But at the end of this day, I think I will have a good feeling for each and every one of you. I loved Peter. As Ellen knows, and as friends of mine, and many of you know, I really miss him. I actually wish I could talk to him today. Many of you probably have the same feeling. writing his obituary for me was very cathartic. It brought back so much of the Peter that all of us loved. I mourned his loss for over a year. As we visited, as we talked, as we suffered together, and as he slowly said to me and to many of us, "I'll see you later." I'm sure that many of you feel as I do today. I still grieve. I get up in the morning, I write my journal, and I often wish that I could call up my buddy Pete and tell him my secrets as he would tell me his secrets. So before I came here today, I thought about, how do I memorialize Peter on this sun-filled afternoon? Do I look up at the sky, blue sky, and see his smile? Well, there's a roof over my head and I can't see the sky. But let me try another way to share memories with you. Let's give it a try. I'm going to recite a letter, one at a time. P-E-T-E-R. And after I recite the letter and my definition of that letter, let's for 15 seconds silently think about the letter. P, which to me meant intimate, and when you were with him, he was with you. So I'll begin counting from 15 back, and during those 15 seconds, think about the intimate Peter and moments when you were with him and he was with you. E, every man, a humble character whose benign conduct fostered a person's confidence. Talented. He had a natural aptitude and was gifted in music, in video, in flying a plane, in fixing anything. E, energetic, effective, active, and never tired. R, resourceful, having the ability to find quick ways to overcome difficulties. Peter, you will always live in my heart.
And my uncle grew up together in Hamilton Square. My grandmother raised them more or less on her own. And she divorced her husband, their father, early on, and they had, even though they're very alike in many ways, they were also very different. My uncle was the cool brother, and my dad was the nerdy brother. And like my dad, they both played the piano, and my dad would play classical music, and he got a new piano, and Pete came over and wanted to, see the new piano, and Pete sat down, and all of these jazz riffs came out that were so different than the way I had ever heard the piano played, and I loved that. I loved the differences, but there were so many similarities also, obviously, being raised in the same family. And you mentioned Guy Renzi, and when I graduated high school, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and Pete was over one time, and he said to me, you should be a court reporter, because you can work your own hours, you can freelance, you can be your own boss, and you'll make a nice living. And he introduced me to Guy. Guy gave me my first machine. It was a very old-fashioned machine with a paper tray that came out the back, and used to roll out the sides sometimes when I wasn't paying attention to loading the paper properly. And he supported me the whole way through my schooling, and helped me when I was getting my first job. And I went on to work in the Southern District of New York, and that's where I am now. For a few more years, I'll be there. And it's just been, I credit him for, putting me on the track for a very, very good career. And, he spent a lot of time with us over the years, all the different phases of our lives. He helped my brother tremendously when my brother was feeling, like floundering a little bit. And he was very good to us, and he'll be sorely missed.
Years older than I was. He and I were actually, at one time, in my mind, romantic rivals. So,
I think you and Rob were as well, actually.
so it's about 10 years ago, and a new place had opened up in Princeton called Agricola. So I stopped by after work, and I'm at the end of the bar, and I order a drink. And I'm looking down the bar, and I see this shaft of light coming down from the heavens, right on this woman.
To an angel.
And I'm like drawn over. It's like a tractor beam in Star Trek. And I'm walking over to this woman, and she's there with a girlfriend. And, I just think she's amazing. I'm talking to her and exchanging some information. And out of the corner of my eye, I see Albert Stark walk in. Now, I knew Albert professionally. And he walks toward us, and I think he's going to say hello. And he goes to this woman and gives her a big hug. And clearly they know each other well. And then he turns to me, and we shake hands. And then she goes off with him and her girlfriend, and they go to a table. And then I see this guy walk in, and he joins them. And I'm looking, I'm trying to figure out, some women like older men, but he's 30 years older. So I had enough information that the next day I was able to reach out to her, and a few months later we actually got together for a drink, talking, and I said, so, how long have you been going out with that fellow? And she said, what are you talking about? I said, that guy that I saw you with Albert Stark. And she said, that's not my boyfriend, that's my Uncle Pete. That's my Uncle Pete Stark.